Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear viewers and listeners, Assalamu alaikum. In this monologue, I am going to discuss the steep path and its consequences that were explained in verses 11 to 18 of chapter 90 of the glorious Quran for the guidance of heedful mankind. The steep path implies difficult good deeds that most of us avoid due to egocentric and self-obsessed human behavior. However, this steep path is the approved path in the sight of God. Those human beings who follow this path are likely to be rewarded with immense dividend by God on the judgment day. Verses 11 to 12 of chapter 90 highlight the ignorance of human beings about the steep path in the following words. It reads, "But he has not attempted the steep path. What will convey to you what the steep path is?" These verses make it clear that a sinner or a disbeliever human being has yet not attempted the steep path because he or she is ignorant about the significance of the steep path as a mean of redemption on the judgment day. Ignorance about the steep path may be compared with a situation where somebody is walking in a casual manner on a dusty road without looking around, and he is made aware of the fact that the dusty road will lead him nowhere and he is bound to die with hunger and thirst sooner or later. However, if he climbs a nearby hill that is replete with fruit trees and streams of fresh water, he may enjoy a perpetual and blissful life. But somehow, the person ignores this advice due to his stubbornness and derelict nature, and keep walking on the dusty road till the time his energies are wasted. When he is about to die, he repents. Why did he not climb the hill to reap the fruits of blissful life? Most of us are walking on the dusty road of life, chasing temporary and worthless worldly goals, ignoring the fruits of the hilltop, the life in the hereafter, because it demands climbing the hill of the right path with vigor and determination. Verses 13 to 17 of chapter 90 highlight the three elements of the steep path in the following words. It reads, "To free a neck and to feed in the day of hunger, an orphan, near of kin, or some poor person in misery, and to be of those who believe and exhort one another to patience and exhort one another to pity." These verses categorize the steep path into three distinct acts that include 1. Freeing a neck, 2. Feeding the hungry, and 3. To observe patience and pity. Let's explore the meaning and implications of these three elements for a comprehensive understanding about the steep path. Freeing a neck implies freeing somebody who is under servitude of any type. Their servitude or bondage may be physical, financial, social, and legal. Throughout the annals of history, mankind has been indulged in this cruel act under different gaps. The example of physical bondage may be where one person is the slave of another person. He is deprived of all human rights and he is treated like a chattel. The example of financial bondage may be where a person has borrowed money for personal use from another person and later he is unable to return that money due to his precarious financial circumstances. Now, the creditor is treating the poor borrower in a harsh manner, insisting to sell his basic belongings to clear part of the debt. The example of social bondage may be a situation where a person is excluded from enjoying social benefits of a society due to his weak social status, such as depriving a poor person to use the community well or denying a person certain social benefits that are available only to the rich class, and so on. The example of legal bondages where the legal system in the society is biased in favor of the rich and the influential class. The poor persons are immediately charged for a minor offense, but a rich and influential person is allowed to move scot free and deprive others of their legal rights. For example, an influential murderer or thief is allowed to move freely in the society without being caught at the expense of weaker segments of the society. In all these situations, the persons under servitude are deprived of their basic human rights. So God commands that any believer who spends his wealth to free a slave in any situation is following the steep path. This act of freeing a slave from any form of servitude is liked by God tremendously. The significance of liberating a person from servitude of all types has been reinforced several times in numerous verses in the glorious Quran for heedful mankind. For example, chapter 2, verse 177 of Quran reads, "Goodness does not consist in turning your face towards east or west. The truly good are those who believe in God and the last day, who give away some of their wealth, however much they cherish it, to liberate those in bondage." Similarly, chapter 9, verse 60 of Quran reads, "Alms are meant only for the poor, the needy, to free slaves and help those in debt. This is ordained by God. God is all-knowing and wise." So it is obligatory for all heedful mankind to spend wealth for liberating a person under servitude of any type, including a debt obligation. Think over critically how many of us spend wealth for this noble cause. It may be an eye-opener for most of us indeed. The second important element of steep path is feeding an orphan, a relative, or a poor person. The pangs of hunger could only be felt by a believer who observes the prescribed fast ordained by God and who is afraid of God's retribution on the judgment day. History is replete with examples where hunger and poverty has made people to abandon their faith. So God commands that all believers must strive to provide food to a hungry person. That includes an orphan relative and a stranger in distress. This fact is reinforced in chapter 76, verses 8 and 9 of glorious Quran in the following words: "They give food to the poor, the orphan, and the captive, though they love it themselves, saying, 'We feed you for the sake of God alone. We seek neither recompense nor thanks from you.'" So feeding a hungry person, an orphan, or a captive is one of the noblest acts in the sight of God. Unfortunately, a large number of human beings prefer accumulation of wealth rather than spending it for feeding the poor persons. This miser attitude is condemned by God in numerous verses of Quran. The third element of steep path is patience in times of calamity and be compassionate to others. God commands on several occasions in the glorious Quran that those who are patient and steadfast are the true believers. Chapter 11, verse 115 of Quran reads, "Be steadfast. God does not let the rewards of those who do good go to waste." Why steadfastness is liked by God? The answer lies in the fact that it is human nature to brood over calamities and adopt inconsistent behavior in such a situation. This inconsistency could become a major factor towards thanklessness and denial of God's blessings. So God commands that all human beings must remain steadfast to avoid denying blessings of God even under calamities. In many cases, a calamity may be a test of life to strengthen a believer's faith. So a steadfastness could be a powerful factor in the hands of all human beings to ensure their salvation in both the worlds. Similarly, God also commands to take pity on others. It is obligatory to expect mercy and pity from God in this world and on the judgment day, because God has taken upon himself to be merciful. Chapter 6, verse 12 of Quran confirms this fact in the following words: God has taken it upon himself to be merciful. In the light of wisdom provided by this verse of Quran, it becomes mandatory for all heedful mankind to adopt mercy and pity towards others, to follow this fundamental attribute of God. Perchance, this factor may become a source of redemption for a sinner on the judgment day. Verse 18 of chapter 90 highlights the corollary of following the steep path. It reads, "Their place will be on the right hand." Right hand implies success on the judgment day. Quran tells us that the person on the right hand on the judgment day will enjoy a blissful life. This fact is highlighted in chapter 56, verses 27 to 14, the following words: "Those on the right, what people they are! They will dwell amid thornless low tree and clustered acacia, with spreading shade, constantly flowing water, abundant fruits. For those on the right, many from the past and many from later generations." So the reward for adopting the steep path is a blissful life in the hereafter. Such people will live in the heaven forever, fearing nothing wrong. These verses confirm that many people from the past and later generations will be amongst this class. This proves that adoption of steep paths is not a very difficult task, and if a person makes up his mind, he can achieve the target of a blissful life in hereafter fairly easily due to merciful nature of God. Now I sum up the theme of this monologue for reinforcement purpose. The key points to remember include the following. 1. Human beings are ignorant about the significance of the steep path. A large number of human beings have never attempted it due to a self-centered approach towards goals of life. 2. The three elements of the steep path include: 1. Freeing a neck from servitude. 2. Feeding a hungry and poor person. And 3. Observing steadfastness under all circumstances, especially under a calamity. 3. The reward for adopting the steep path is being on the right-hand side class on the judgment day. These are the persons who will enjoy a blissful life in the hereafter. 4. Since many people from the past and later generations will be amongst this class, therefore it is logical to assume that adoption of the steep path is not a very difficult task. A little effort on our part can make us members of this blessed class. I conclude my monologue on steep path with the prayer that Allah Almighty may bless this effort. Please do subscribe and share my channel for updates. It's absolutely free. Finally, do ask me questions to alleviate your concern about any related issue discussed in this monologue. Post your question in the comment section on my YouTube channel for a quick reply.